We're tight for 2 periods. So there's a pressure in all these games, right? We feel it every time you come to the rink, and then you get to a game when it was a must-win game, and you could see it. I mean, we weren't moving our feet. We were really struggling to get things going, and then what they're very good at is exactly their first 2 goals, and we were behind it. And then I think the pressure came off, and they relaxed. For me, they just relaxed a little bit and started to skate, and that's when good things started to happen. But good on them for finding the fire and these guys want to win so bad. Like, they truly do care, and it would look that it was a casual effort, and that's not what the problem was, right? They got the heart. They do want to. For me, they were just feeling the weight of being of playing against an underdog and we were tight. So we turned the corner, and away we went.
It did look like there was some really grabbing the stick and some frustration when nothing was happening.
Well, I mean, we went down on some angled shots that would be normally the crowd would be on its feet, feeling that something good could happen. The bench should be standing up, and it was just tense. Or we hit them right here, or miss the net by 4 feet. Right? There was no. It was hard to get any of that good action going forward. But those are the things you got to deal with, right? Like, we are in a pressure environment, as all these teams are right now. When you go up against the teams that, you have a big win against Pittsburgh, and then you beat the first place team, you could feel it today a little bit, right? It was a little bit tight. So we figured it out, right? We figured out in the third that for us to be good, we got to be loose and driving a little bit. We've got to be a little bit relaxed in our game, and not be so damn uptight about the game of hockey, right? I mean, maybe that's the coach too, squeezing them. I mean, we showed an awful lot of video about how good they are off the rush, and the first 2 goals were exactly the video that we saw for 2 days. I didn't think we had our forecheck going because we were tentative. So they won't show any more of that video, that's for sure.
Yeah, and how much video can you do for Winnipeg coming in here tomorrow?
Well,
right?
we'll just prep for them in a bit of a tight way. We won't go. That game won't be seen again, and then we'll just. I think tomorrow we're going to be a much faster team.
You talk about fire, Matthew Tkachuk, primary system, all 3 of those goals in the third period. Did you see him kind of elevate his game there a bit in the third?
I thought it was all of them. I thought he was, he wants to win real bad too, and I thought his first periods were just like he couldn't get a handle on some pucks. Like, even on the first goal, the puck's in his corner. So he's one of, I think, the top 25 forwards in the National Hockey League on one-puck battles. He never loses those pucks, right? So we were losing the pucks in the corners. They were bumping them into the middle. Their D were taking off, and here they were coming down the ice. I just thought was like each and every one of them. They want to win so bad that they got to the point they were so tight they couldn't play the game.
From a coaching standpoint, just like what you've talked to us about tonight and the last couple of days about preparing for Chicago, knowing exactly what they're going to bring, and then you see how the game starts. How do you kind of keep your cool on the bench in order to get it to trickle down to the team, see the turnaround that we saw?
First, you turn the mics off on the bench so you never get to hear what I say, and then you can feel it. You're trying to pump some tires without creating panic on the bench for 2, and then you know what's wrong with your team, so you try to come up with the right words in between periods to just relax them. Just relax, right? Like, all these other teams now are going to face what we face. They're all going to face teams in the bottom half, and the other night, God, I think Columbus was up 4-0 on a team and on Pittsburgh. And how is that possible, right? It's exactly that reason. The pressure's on all of these teams now. We have to learn how to handle it. Come into the games where you're the favorite, and you've got to be able to relax and play the game.
It's in terms of consistency. This is now the second time this season, but the second time in the last month and a half that you guys have been able to string 3 wins together. I mean, that's what you need to do.
We've got to go on a run for sure, and that will be the team that makes us the team that goes on a run. But our record's pretty good since probably in around January 1st. Like, we've been a pretty good team. After the loss, and to me, the loss in the Ranger game was a change in our season in terms of how hard we compete. And we've been a pretty good team since then.
Looking at overtime, just Brandon Montour's goal, just the amount of skill involved there, just how impressive was that?
I think Brandon's had a whole lot of things not go his way in the last few games, so it's fitting that he got one to go for him. I mean, it was the exact opposite of him, because that puck was spinning, flipping all over the place in the air, and it landed dead flat. And so we got a break on that.
It's deserving, too, because just like 30 seconds before, he had gotten on his horse to try to chase the guy
Right.
down at the other end.
So he would be a prime example of the difference in speed between a player between the first and second and the third. all of a sudden now he's the fastest guy on the ice, and that's what we're used to seeing, right? The pressure comes off. It's not even pressure. The tension comes off, the fear of that failure, and then you get pushed into, let's go, and let's drive. And that's what we got to in the third.
What'd you think of Bob's workload?
Oh, it was an incredibly difficult game because he sat for such a long time with nothing, and then it's odd man and odd man. And you look at most of the shots in the first period, I mean, he's just blockering them, saving them. He's in his rocking chair for him. So those are the hardest games, and then you get into the last 5 minutes, the penalty kill. Penalty kill. It was really good in the second. I don't think we should have been on the penalty kill for either of those last two. I'm adamantly sure of that. And then the overtime, right? Huge saves. So what he did there is a mastercraft in terms of mental toughness of goaltending. Have to sit for that long and then be great.
You think, in terms of tomorrow, reserved enough to have him again, or is that something you're going to...
So we played one game coming into tonight, and we got 4 days off going after this. So, I mean, he's an old schooler, man. There was a time when you always played your number one on back-to-back because they all would tell you they felt better. And then somebody did some math, and they said, well, they don't. But the math on back-to-back for any team isn't very good. Yeah, I would expect Bob to be in the net tomorrow.
I mean, speaking of that math, I mean, you guys haven't had that good luck in just the second half of back-to-backs this year. I mean, what are you looking to do differently tomorrow?
Just play like we did against Boston. That was all right.
Thank you guys.
Okay, guys.
Thanks.